In this video, I want to talk about the Nissan Z Proto and why we all should be very grateful to Nissan for actually building this car. It's not as easy as you might think it is building a car like this in today's environment. Motor Trend wrote this a while back. Nissan Z is easily one of the most hotly anticipated cars of 2021, and I totally agree with that. It's going to be unveiled in full production form next month on August 17th. We have some new images of the car being leaked. And I think it's funny when you look at these leaked pictures, because every time you see a car being leaked, it's always like they took the car with the flip phone from 2005. The quality is so bad. I always wonder, what did the person actually taking the photos use to take these images? Every time there's a car leak, the photos look like crap, and I think it's kind of, maybe it's even a marketing tactic that is supposed to look like a leaked secret image, so they kind of turn down the quality of the image, just to build up the hype. Who knows? But anyway, what I want to talk to you about today is let's see what we have here. As we suspected earlier, the next Z's underpinning will be largely carried over from the current 370Z. That means that the chassis, hardpoints, and cut lines will all be the same as the 370Z. But, of course, we have some new bodywork that is going to be more resemblant of the 240Z. And what's really cool is they kind of took some inspiration from a bunch of different Z cars. You have the taillights looking like the 300ZX, like a modern version, 3D version of the 300ZX lights that you have. Very cool. And also the roofline, the proportions is a typical 240Z, which I want to talk to you about in a second here. The thing is, building a car today, specifically if you have a 400 horsepower version V6 with a manual transmission, if you're going to build a car like that today, it's not going to be easy to create a car like that today from scratch, because you have to put in a lot of money and funding behind a new product like this, and you also need to, of course, put in a lot of time to create a product like this from scratch. So I totally understand why Nissan decided to go with the 370Z design and baseline, also in the interior, which I'm going to show you the Z interior and the 370Z interior, and just show you how similar they actually are. But it's not a bad thing, because I think Nissan, when they started this project, they kind of had two choices, two directions to go. You can either we can either make a brand new car from scratch, which is environmentally friendly, all electric, and it's going to cost double what this is going to cost. They say this will be the base price around $35,000, which is an insanely good deal if that's actually true. There is talks about $35,000 to $40,000, and comparing that to, for example, they mentioned that here as well, $34,995 at least to start. That undercuts other sporty machines like the all-conquering front-wheel drive Civic Type R and the Supra 3.0. Now, Supra has the 2.0, but that's a 4-cylinder, and that would cost more than $35,000. And that's what you get when you take a 370Z base and use that to create a new car. The 370Z is a great handling car, so I totally understand why they did this. And as I said, they could have chosen two different directions. Either go all electric, build a brand new car, we have to wait a long time for that, and then the base price is probably going to land about 50-60 grand. Or they could take what they already have and restyle and focus on the styling of the car. So let's jump into Photoshop here. Focus on the styling of the car while we keep the underpinnings the same as we had since, 2009 when the 370Z came out or something like that. It's a good idea. It's a very good strategy to really emphasize that the Z is supposed to have a V6, and I'm a huge fan of the Z. As you can see, this is my painting here on this t-shirt. You can get this t-shirt down in the description if you want to check that out. What makes the Z special here in design is the roofline, is the silhouette. So you have this line right here, you have the long hood. It looks almost like like it would be one of these cars from the 60s that would cost $1 million, $2 million in today's value because of the design, like the Toyota 2000 GT and the Ferrari 250 GTO. It has the same kind of vibe. I'm not comparing it to a 250 GTO, obviously, in design or styling, but it does have a similar uniqueness and the similar proportions with this long hood that stretches far ahead into these beautiful headlights right there. I would prefer to have a plastic cover on top of the 240Z lights there. But what really sets the 240Z apart, which I love, is the roofline. So you have the roofline going down right here and never going back up. So you don't have this integrated ducktail that you usually have on modern looking coupes. That little change right here, this design, that it just dips down and continues to go down, 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 and then just ends right here. You can see this is like someone took a knife and just cut the end. You expect it to kind of go into this wing, the spoiler that's been added here, but you want this spoiler to be part of the bodywork because that kind of would make sense, but it doesn't, and that thing makes the Z a special car. So let's have a look at the 370Z here, and what a great design change this was. Going from the 240Z, you have of course a lot of Z's in between there. The 350Z, which has almost like a bit of a sedan looking style on the rear end, that kind of took away from the original 240Z-ness, I would say. But it came back here with the 370Z because we have the same kind of roofline here as you have on the 240Z, which I just love. And you have this sharp corner up here, which is also a trademark for this 240Z, that you have this straight A-pillar that goes into this curvature then, into the sloping roofline. And you have the same line right here on the 370Z. So if Nissan were to take a design, a semi-modern design, and apply it and take that as a base for the new Z, it would definitely be the 370Z and not the 350Z. The 350, still a cool design, very clean, very almost a bit architectural if you follow the line flow and see how the line flows in the 350 compared to the 370. But I think the 370 here is more of a good modern interpretation of the 240Z. And the Z Proto, which we have here, this by the way is pretty much what the production version was look like. This was a concept that they just showed, and I think they wanted to test the waters and call it a concept, but they know that this is actually the production version of what the Nissan Z will look like, and I'm glad it is, because just look at how they hammer in the traditional 240Z graphics in here. It's not just we're gonna take the silhouette and apply it onto the Z Proto here. We're gonna emphasize this even more by pushing a gray or almost chrome, maybe satin gray trim piece into the key feature of the design to just hammer in that we didn't forget about the heritage of the 240. We want to really emphasize that we kept this line by adding this trim piece in here. And you have the 300ZX style taillights right there. And on top of that, it looks maybe a little thick right here in this area. I'm not sure. I think that has to do with these two parallel lines. We have one line right here and another line in the same direction here. So this creates a bit of a thickness that if we were to reverse one of these lines, it would probably help this design a little bit. Maybe have this go into the bumper right there. But it's one of these things, as I've said before, that it's something unusual, and unusual things makes for an interesting analysis when you see the design inside you. If it was as every other car, it would probably be a good looking car, but it wouldn't be as interesting. You also have this vertical line right here, which is very interesting, and kind of sets, maybe they wanted to mirror this vertical rear end somehow in the front, and they added that right there. It's going to be a great looking car. The only difference here from the Z Proto to the production version is, what I've seen so far is that you're gonna have different wheels and tires. One thing that I've seen on the production that I say all the time is I love the stance of the Z Proto, but when I looked at the production pictures and the car, the new wheels and tires, you kind of lose a little bit of that concept stance that I'm looking for and hoping to see whenever I see a concept car and I know it's going to go into production. I know that if it's an internal combustion concept, it's going to lose the stance, the plantedness, the beefiness of the rear end, specifically when it goes into production, and that kind of happened here. But that's an aftermarket thing that you can easily change if you want to. Before we end the video, I just want to quickly show you just how much relation is between the initial Z and now the Z Proto. I'm going to sketch the same lines and then copy these lines and overlay them over the 370Z and then the Z Proto, and not gonna change anything. So this is almost in line or the same kind of evolution as a 911. This is a car that is very special in design, and I think these types of the historical designs and improvements over time is something that should be celebrated, because we rarely see these type of designs today. Just a short video here that I wanted to make about the Z Proto, and say that just a thank you to Nissan for taking this leap here in creating the Z Proto. It's taking a long time to come out with a new Z car, but I think that's because they didn't know. I mean, there's a lot of regulations that car companies need to abide by today, and creating a brand new internal combustion engine V6 with a manual transmission, it just doesn't flow well with where car companies are supposed to head, in what direction they're supposed to go with all the EVs and these phasing out of the internal combustion and the introduction of electric cars into every single segment that you have within the car companies. So this approach here, this strategy with taking the 370Z and apply whatever we can, take whatever we can from that, and just focus on the design and try to have some fun and make this design similar to the original 240. This must have been a fun project to work on. Like, imagine working in a Nissan design studio and they say, we're gonna take the 370Z, we can't really afford, or we can't really make a brand new car from scratch. We're gonna take the 370Z, but what I want you to do as designers is to make it look like a 240Z more than the 370Z. I mean, how fun of a project would that be? You don't have to really think about the engineering, because it's already there. Underneath it is a 370Z, so there's nothing in the chassis, the wheelbase that you need to think about. All you have to focus on is having a look at the 240Z, take inspiration from that, and apply it onto this package, and boom, we have the new Z. And the main reason why I wanted to make this video is just because I've seen a lot of people complaining that it is just a restyled 370Z, and they should have come out with something brand new and so on. And I can definitely see that. If we look at the interior here, for example, I just want to quickly show you the similarities in the interior. You can see that we have these air intakes are pretty much the same. We have the door handle, the design here is the same. The center console here is the same in both cars. What's been redesigned for the Z Proto is this part right here. So we have a more modern looking interface, specifically this LED that's going to be standard on every single Z Proto. Even if you buy the base $35,000 version, you're still going to have a fully digital gauge cluster, which I think is pretty sweet. You still have the 3 gauges up here, and if you go to the side here, you still have the same kind of design right here, and the seats are basically the same seats. But I honestly don't care about any of that, because it looks good, it's a good looking interior, and they saved a lot of money, and the result is that we have an internal combustion V6 Nissan Z with a 400 horsepower and $35,000 base price. If that's what they had to do to get to that point, I'm all for it.